Senate fixes April the 2nd for passage of 2019 budget. Independent National Electoral Commission INEC suspends collation of results for governorship election in Bauchi State. In international news, UK Prime Minister Theresa May must file a Brexit extension with the EU by Thursday, or it may be too late. And in sport, Super Eagles begin preparations for Seychelles clash.
This is ANN News.
I am Olajumoke Olatunji. The Nigerian Senate has fixed April the 2nd for passage of the almost 9 trillion naira 2019 budget for third reading. The Senate had earlier passed for second reading the 2019 budget proposals presented to the joint session of the National Assembly for approval by President Muhammadu Buhari exactly 3 months ago. The scheduled passage of the budget on April the 2nd was disclosed by the President of the Senate, Bukola Saraki, in his remarks while mandating the Appropriation Committee to work on the budget's details within 2 weeks. The 8.83 trillion naira budget proposal, as presented by President Buhari, is anchored on key parameters such as $60 per barrel oil price benchmark, nearly 2.5 million barrels oil production per day, and 305 exchange rates to the US dollar. Others are 3% GDP growth rate and 9% inflation rate. Critical components of the budget estimate a recurrent expenditure, capital expenditure, debt servicing, and $1 billion for statutory transfers. Deputy National Publicity Secretary of the All Progressives Congress, Yakini Nabene, has charged the reports by Senate President Bukola Saraki and those at the head of the opposition People's Democratic Party to hijack the leadership of the 9th session of the National Assembly by influencing who emerges leaders of both chambers. Nabena said in a statement in Abuja that the leadership of the All Progressives Congress must move fast to nip such moves in the bud by coming out with the zoning formula for the emergence of leaders of the legislature. Nabena says the Senate President is working in tandem with what he calls Otter Farm, warning that the APC must move quickly to urgently roll out the zoning arrangements to avoid a repeat of what happened in 2015. Both incumbent Senate President Bukola Saraki and House Speaker Yakubu Dogara emerged Senate President and Speaker against the party's wish in the outgoing 8th National Assembly. The Independent National Electoral Commission INEC has suspended its scheduled collation of results for the governorship election in Bauchi State in accordance with a court order. President Electoral Commissioner Professor Ibrahim Abdullahi announced the decision of the Commission at a press conference. The Commission was scheduled to continue the collation exercise for the recent governorship and State House of Assembly elections that were later declared inconclusive. The collation center was attacked by thugs during announcement of the results. An investigative committee set up by INEC disclosed that duplicating original registration area result sheets containing the outcome of the elections were available. A court order issued on Tuesday after a suit filed by the All Progressives Congress and its governorship candidates directed INEC to stop the process. Hundreds of ad hoc staff engaged by the Independent National Electoral Commission in the just concluded general elections in Anambra State have protested on Tuesday against non-payment of their allowances weeks after the polls, as protesters stormed the Commission's office in Awka to demand for their entitlement and allowances. They were denied access. Spokesperson for the protesters, Ikechukwu Mike, said they had unsuccessfully complained to the officer in charge of payments in the Commission. Mike says only few of the dock workers have been paid so far. Victims of the recurrent killings in Kajuru local government area of Kaduna State held a peaceful rally in Abuja on Tuesday, asking for justice. Convener of the rally, Williams Abba, says it was to call the attention of the world to the insecurity in Kaduna State. Gunmen again attacked 2 communities in the troubled local government area early last week. Multiple sources confirmed the attack, but police and the state government did not immediately react. The attacks occurred in Ikirimi village in Iri, Dogonoma in Ungwagama, both in Kajuru local government area. And in Kwara State, the government has put its debt profile at 30 billion naira with a monthly repayment of almost half a billion naira. Commissioner for Finance Alhaji Demola Banu says contrary to social media speculation of 50 billion naira, the debt stood at 31.5 billion in 2017 and almost 31 billion at the end of 2018. Given a breakdown of the current indebtedness, Banu explained that the 30 billion naira includes 15 billion naira balance of the federal government restructured loan and 4 billion a salary bailout. Others are excess crude accounts loan outstanding of almost 10 billion naira and vehicle loan balance of 129 million. Coming up, African stories, new positive policies in Algeria and opposition word know them to participate. On later international news, Thursday is deadline for UK to file Brexit extension request with the EU.
You are watching ANN.
This used to be me. But that was before I got the perfect bag. It's handy and easy to use. All I need in one compact space, just like my MTN Extra Value plan. I used to get one plan for my calls and then try to remember which data plan worked for me. Roaming was a totally different ballgame. Not anymore. I've got the MTN Extra Value all-in-one plan. If you're a data buff like me, you get extra data with some talk time. And if you like to make calls, you get extra talk time with some data. And when I'm abroad, I automatically browse, chat, and call right on the same plan. MTN Extra Value was made just for me.
More of data or calls, whichever one you prefer. MTN Extra Value is made just for you.
Welcome back. This is ANN News. Now to African stories. The Dutch Police International Crimes Unit says it has arrested a 69-year-old Rwandan man near Utrecht on Tuesday. It says the man is suspected of being involved in the 1994 Rwandan genocide. Rwandan authorities had requested the extradition of Enant R, said to be the regional director of a regional agricultural institute where 1,000 Tutsi men, women and children were killed after seeking shelter in the compound. At least 800,000 civilians died in the 1994 genocide in Rwanda. United Arab Emirates, India and Sweden have pledged millions of dollars worth of emergency aid to Mozambique, Zimbabwe and Mali after tropical cyclone Idai tore through the southern African countries, leaving devastation in its wake. Rescue workers in Mozambique were racing against time to pluck people off trees and rooftops on Tuesday after the monster storm swept through before smashing into Zimbabwe. 4 days after, Idai made landfall. Torrential rains, powerful winds combined with flash floods that have swept away roads and bridges inflicted further pain on the two impoverished countries. UAE's aid contribution consists of food supplies and food supplements for children, medical and medicinal supplies, as well as shelter supplies to assist more than 500,000 individuals across 3 countries. Sweden says it is waiting for more information from humanitarian organizations on ground in Mozambique in order to know how much aid to send. But India, on its part, wants to provide technical aid to clear up the ravages left behind by the monster storm. Somalia has released a new currency to shut down fake currencies that are flying around in the country. With this, it also wants to discourage people from using the dollar as their acceptable currency. It hopes this new currency will boost business and save foreign reserves. Abdulaziz Bilo reports.
The new currency is expected to replace existing banknotes that are no longer in use in some regions of the country. This will be the first time authorities in the Horn of Africa nation print new banknotes in 3 decades, a major undertaking expected to cost the government more than $40 million.
Currency reforms are crucial for Somalia, and it's what we've been working for the past 12 to 18 months. Once we acquire funds for this exercise, we will publicize the tender and invite companies that print currency.
The new currency is expected to have smaller denominations compared to the current money in circulation. Traders in central Somalia have banned the use of local currency, claiming it's fake. The ban has affected small business owners who now want authorities to address the issue.
Traders have refused to accept the local currency. We have raised the issue with local authorities, but nothing has changed.
We stopped accepting the Somali shilling for almost 2 years now. We used to accept it before, but not anymore. We don't have any issue with the new currency. We welcome the initiative because as traders, we record good sales when we use local currency.
The ban on local currency in central Somalia has affected foreign exchange. Many currency exchange outlets have been forced to shut down as locals insist on the use of the dollar.
The ban on local currency in some regions of the country has affected many families. Those that operate foreign exchange services cannot earn a living anymore because people prefer using the dollar. The government must have a policy that will enforce use of the Somali currency across the country.
Mobile money transfer service is increasingly becoming popular all across Somalia. The country has been ranked as one of the most active mobile money markets in the world by leading financial institutions, with telecom companies continuing to provide that service at no extra cost to its clients. Leading banks also conduct their daily transactions using the dollar, increasing concerns among many as to how the federal government of Somalia will enforce the use of its new currency.
Algeria's Deputy Prime Minister says the upcoming presidential elections in the country will feature several new elements. Speaking at a Moscow press conference after meeting with Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov, Rwandan Namamra says for the first time, everyone will be able to participate. He said the elections will be overseen and administered by an independent selection commission. Namamra also announced that President Abdelaziz Bouteflika will not be a candidate in the elections and that he is ready to hand over power to the elected president in a completely transparent manner. The Deputy Prime Minister also said the opposition will participate in governance after the election. Last week, 82-year-old Bouteflika postponed presidential elections scheduled for April and withdrew his candidacy after weeks of mass protest against his nomination for a 5th term. Africans may not know that there are actually airplanes manufactured in Africa and sold internationally. Well, South Africa has blazed the trail with a manufacturing company owned and operated by South Africans. The company even trains engineers and other categories of African workers in its plants. Julie Sher brings us that report.
A love for adventure brought South Africans James Pittman and Mike Blythe together in 2005. The dream was to build a light sport aircraft. And it wasn't long before a 2-seater sling took to the sky and the airplane factory began.
I actually remember the day. The first aircraft we flew was on the 18th of October 2008. And essentially it represented 3 years of blood, sweat and tears. And it flew beautifully.
The adventure didn't stop there. In 2009 and 2013, the daring pair flew their planes around the world, catching the eye of the international audience.
It was the most amazing feeling after so many years of creating this little piece of engineering and art. It's like creating an amazing painting, you know. You work at it, you design it, you change it until you have this machine that actually flies, and I think that's the achievement.
Orders came pouring in. The company went into full-scale operation, producing around 480 planes from its Johannesburg hangar in over 10 years. More than 180 people were employed to keep up with the rapid growth.
Most of our employees are people who have no tertiary education, and we teach them on the job here. A lot of them, you know, in the true kind of South African tradition, live in what's referred to as the Eikenhof squatter camp, which is just down the drag over here.
So it wasn't easy for me when I started to join Mike and without any experience. But with Mike's help, I end up like know everything what's happening, and he trained me everything to do the structure and do the engine.
I feel like after 5 years of being within a place like this, you probably have experience from sub-assembly up until final assembly. You'd actually be able to build an aircraft on your own.
So I'm feeling a little bit nervous, but we're going to go out in the sling and see exactly what it can do.
All right, are we ready to go?
We're ready to go. We're in the air, and this little aircraft feels very safe and sturdy.
Our fastest one in kilometers an hour flies at around about 280 kilometers an hour. Can fly from here to Cape Town and a bit further than that in lots of comfort and with autopilots and all the best instrumentation in the world.
The company makes amateur construction kits to keep up with soaring international demand. Each aircraft is priced between $140,000 and $200,000, which costs slightly more than a luxury car in South Africa.
When we return, Thursday is deadline for UK to file Brexit extension request with the EU. And later, sport. Super Eagles train ahead of Seychelles clash.
You are watching ANN.
Looking for some Disney magic but don't know where to find it? We've got a magical solution just for you. Simply go to disneynigeria.mobi and get an exciting selection of games, short videos, wallpapers, shareables, and more. Explore a whole new world of Disney on your mobile, tablet, or PC. For just 200 Naira monthly, you get to enjoy the fun to infinity and beyond. SMS Disney to 11006 to begin. Terms and conditions apply. This service is only available to MTN customers.
Somewhere in the world, every second of the day, news is happening. And of course, Nigeria is bustling with news day and night. That is why ANN doesn't sleep. Our eyes are peeled, wide open, so no story escapes our radar. We stay abreast of world events and happenings at home. We keep you up to the minute in the world of sports. We give you information to stay on top of your investments and all the hard facts you need to navigate your day. If you miss us on air, you can keep up to date on our website, annafrica.net, and on our social media platforms, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at ANN Africa TV. We are ANN, African News Network. We do news right in a truly African spirit.
Welcome back. This is ANN News. Now to events from around the world. The first burials of victims from the massacre in Christchurch, New Zealand were held on Wednesday, 5 days after 50 persons were gunned down at two mosques in the city. 13 bodies were released on Wednesday afternoon. Police authorities say most of the rest of the corpses will be released by the evening. Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern says she shared the frustration of the families who had not been able to bury their loved ones. 8 victims remain in critical condition in intensive care. 29 persons overall are still in Christchurch Hospital receiving treatment for injuries sustained during the mass shootings. British Prime Minister Theresa May has beaten the Thursday deadline for requesting a Brexit extension from the European Union. She requested an extension till June. The request for extension is necessary because the country will not be ready to leave by the original divorce date of March the 29th. In fact, the country is now much further away from being ready. Speaker of the House John Bercow has ruled that Prime Minister May cannot present her deal for another vote unless there is a significant change in it. That ruling has brought a Brexit that was teetering and limping to a standstill. At the moment, British law says its membership of the EU will end on March the 29th, regardless of whether there is a deal in place. All eyes will be on the pivotal support or summit of the European Council on Thursday, during which European leaders could discuss May's extension request. The EU may decide to grant the extension till June, or it could propose years. It's a wait-and-see moment right now. There is a potable water shortage in parts of southern and eastern Metro Manila, Philippines, as well as the province of Zizra. Since early this week, water supplies interruptions have been experienced in many cities, leading to long lines at the public watering stations. Local governments have even adopted water rationing. Reporter Chao Yongfio is in Manila.
It's summer in the Philippines, and for many Filipinos, that means bath time twice a day, and consequently, more clothes to wash. But not for half of residents of the capital, Manila. At different hours of the day for days now, they've had to wait for water rations.
We have been waiting for water since 10 last night. It's already past 12 noon now and we're still waiting.
Papasok ka ng work tapos
we literally have to go to work without having showered.
Manila Water, the private concessionaire that services the east side of the sprawling city of 12 million, says that while the onset of a drought has contributed to the problem, it isn't the main culprit.
The supply that we're getting doesn't match the demand anymore that we have from our customers. Our allocation, that's 1.6 billion, it doesn't match anymore the production demand that we have right now, which is at 1.74 billion liters per day. So that's a clear 140 million liters of deficit on a daily basis.
The other private concessionaire of water here in Metro Manila has started sharing its water allocation to Manila Water, which supplies water to this side of Metro Manila that is having a shortage. That and other stopgap measures have been implemented, but it looks like they've not been enough.
Because even if there is in fact enough water in another dam to last Manila for months, Manila Water and the country's water regulator claim there is no infrastructure to let the excess amount of water flow into distribution lines. Temporary solutions are helping restore water supply gradually, but the government concedes new sources of potable water should have been built yesterday.
Saudi Arabia has always been reckoned with as a world's top oil exporter. They may be about to change if U.S. plans work as well as in practice as they are on paper. And right now, it appears the U.S. may depose Saudi Arabia from that top place in oil exporting. Jacob Greaves reports.
The second wave of US shale oil is coming. That's the message from the International Energy Agency's latest 5-year forecast. It thinks America will account for 70% of global capacity growth over that period. If true, that level would surpass Russian exports and bring it close to Saudi Arabia's crown as top exporter, raising the question of OPEC's market share and whether in the future it can afford to cut supply to influence price.
At this moment in time, there is certainly a need for both shale and everybody else's oil barrels. Whether there will be a need in 5 years' time, the fight gets tighter, if peak demand happens, that's a big question. I suspect it will, and I suspect OPEC will not be able to hold on to the maximize price over market share strategy as they have done for the last 50 years.
It comes at a time when OPEC, alongside the likes of Russia, have been pursuing production cuts to try and boost oil prices. But as the US eyes a more influential future on export markets, questions are being asked of OPEC's room for growth. One of the main forecasts from the IEA is that many OPEC producers will struggle to significantly increase capacity over the next 5 years, with the report suggesting just Iraq and the UAE will be able to substantially increase output. Part of the issue, analysts say, might be courting investment.
Sure, OPEC faces a lot of challenges in trying to maintain its oil production. A lot of countries are faced with declining mature fields. They have to invest a lot of money to get those fields to replace those barrels that they're losing to natural decline. And one of the messages that OPEC has for the market is that they need to see more sustained investment in the industry overall. We're seeing a lot of investment in the U.S. in this shale oil, the short cycle shale oil that brings about returns more quickly than the typical long cycle projects that take a lot of investment and sometimes take up to a decade, even longer sometimes to pay back what you've originally invested.
Up next, sport. Super Eagles begin preparation against clash with Seychelles. Stay with us.
you sure you want to do this?
Adam, go and bring us your husband. Okay, hello baby. We're in this together, okay? Can you hear me? Keep coming forward. Wait, stop. You okay, lean to your right. Keep walking down, keep walking to the left. Yes. You're almost here. Keep going. You are here. Wow, you did it.
I'm just so glad I didn't have to use my cane to do this.
And I am so glad no other man got you before me. Let me be your eyes.
We will never stop working to give you a network you can rely on so you can enjoy life's special moments. MTN, everywhere you go.
Welcome back. This is ANN News and Sport. Nigeria's Super Eagles have begun full preparation for Friday's 2019 Africa Cup of Nations qualifying fixture against Seychelles at the Stephen Keshi Stadium in Asaba. All 23 invited players participated in the training exercise by head coach Genocide. The Nigeria Football Federation has confirmed the arrival of the overseas-based players on Twitter later in the evening. 9 countries have expressed interest in hosting the 2023 Women's World Cup. Argentina, Australia, Bolivia, Brazil, Colombia, Japan, New Zealand and South Africa have formally declared their interest. A joint bid for the tournament could also be made by North and South Korea. World's football governing body FIFA says the deadline to submit bidding registration is the middle of April. And that is ANN News this evening. Thank you for joining us. For details on this and all the stories, visit our website, annafrica.net. Conversation continues on our social media platforms, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at ANN Africa TV. I am Olajumoke Olatunji. Have a pleasant evening.